Hello, everybody. How we doing? What's going on? I'm just enjoying some wonderful tea by a roaring fire. We're in the middle of winter. I live in the Southwest. There's no snow or anything. I gotta pretend. Just roll with me. Go with me with this. And I'm having a wonderful, like I said, wonderful tea, just hanging out. And I was thinking, you know what? Hold on, sip. I wonder if I could make a video about how to make a build in ESO as we're getting to the end of 2024 with all the changes and getting into 2025. You know, how do we think of builds nowadays? You know, if you're a new player especially, like how do I even start with a build? And so I thought, you know what? Let me be your guide in going through here. And this is kind of just my thought process because I have a lot of people that come in the stream and they ask about things. And usually their first thing that they ask about is, you know, what's the strongest this? And, you know, who does the max DPS? And what's kind of going on with that? You know? And I'm like, that's not the question you need to be asking yourself. All right, so there's a few things that you need to go through. So, number one, think about your visuals. Think about what you want to play. You know, one of my favorite things to do in games sometimes is just to juggle some pumpkins. You know, that's why it's one of my favorite emotes. You know, you want to think of like, you know, what do you want, you know, the animation that you're going to see so much of. You know, don't think about your endgame stuff. Don't think about stuff. That stuff's going to take care of itself. All right? In a video game, you want to have a lot of fun. You want to be able to enjoy yourself. And there's nothing worse than leveling up something that you don't even like playing just because at the moment it happens to be the meta. And I say at the moment because we get updates every 3 months and things, 3 months, 4 months, and everything changes. Yeah, every 3 months because quarterly. And things change, you know, all the time. What was the meta, you know, and what is the best set and what's the best thing can always change. So you want to go with something that you want to enjoy. Gosh, I remember back in the days, back in my day, back in the Somerset days, in their picking all of the meta stuff. And then everything changed. One of the big changes they did, I believe it was during the Somerset stuff, is when the racial skills started to change. I always like to say, I played a Khajiit before he was magically fashionable. Had no Magicka stuff, and I was all Magicka. But like a lot of the passive skills didn't have anything to Magicka at the time. Now they do, and they got stuff to crit and everything. It's a lot of fun. So they do even more. So in the past, it wasn't really chosen as, oh my gosh, this is the thing that you need to be able to to use and stuff. So things like that are so minor nowadays, and a lot of times we build with the idea in mind of or when people ask the question of what should I build, what's the best build, what's the hardest hitting build in there, and it really matters on situations nowadays. Even the biggest end gamers of end gamers would tell you that it's it's all about the situation, and sometimes they change it up on the fly, or it's your certain job that you need to do. There's certain builds out there that do certain things on certain bosses. So it's all kind of crazy. So it's a very hard question nowadays when somebody say, oh, what's the best build? What's the best class? What's the best thing? So let's scrap all of that. All right? We're going to scrap all of that. And I'm going to show you how to make a build that's just for you, that's a lot of fun, and you're going to be able to do 99% of the content. 99! Let me take a sip while you guys ponder that. Ooh, I'm liking this lemon ginger tea. Yeah, ponder that. And the 1% that's there, okay, you don't have to worry about it. If you're at that level that you are doing 1%, 0.5% of the end game content, people that are doing that, stuff like that, you'll know how to do all this stuff already because you've been through it. All right. So for all of the other stuff that you do, you don't need it. And a lot of the times, those really meta builds, because they're so specific, don't do very well against things. I had a glass cannon build that could do, 125 plus K DPS, and I would try to take it into like Infinite Archive or into an arena or just try to do a world boss, and I get my butt kicked because it's not designed for solo content. It's not designed for me to be on my own. It's designed for me to have a tank and a healer and some friends giving me some buffs, you know? So you always have to take that into consideration. So when we're looking at a build and we're looking at something, we want to find something that is well-rounded, well-suited for a lot of different things. Now, there's a lot of wonderful creators out there. We have Zynode and Hack the Minotaur and Ryan is Iffy and myself on my dad builds. My dad builds are one of these things, so you can see them in my channel in there, which I call them kind of, a little bit more relaxing, a little bit more forgiving, a little easier to get, enjoyable, lots of fun. And that's kind of the goal. And another one, friend, recently I've been getting into is our friend Duma over at the Game Room. And he's been making some really nice accessible builds as well. And so the one that I've been getting into from him that I did my own a few little tweaks on it because I know the playstyle that I like in there is this Necro build that I've got. So you might be looking at my skills down below there as I'm talking here in this build. So I'm going to actually use this build because I've been really liking this lately. And I'm going to use this kind of as my foundation to talk about how to make your own build and, tips on, where to start and where to begin. In here, and I thank Duma for this build. It's a really great build. Really love it. Never thought I'd get back into my Necro. That's how good of a build that this is for the content that I enjoy. All right. Okay. So let's begin where I want to begin, which is the animations. What do I want to see in most of the stuff? All right. I like seeing fun AoEs. That's me. I love AoEs. I like circular AoEs. And this one with the tombstones, stuff like that, is probably one of the most charismatic. Love it. There's it's called the Boneyard, the Unnerving Boneyard. All right, we don't need to talk about stats yet. All right, and I just love that because I love being able to, at a distance, place an AoE down and start doing, some damage and do some other things. I really enjoy that. There's certain ones with like the DK, the Dragon Knight that has some great ones in there. I like that. I do like the some of the like the Wall of Elements is not a bad one and everything, but it's a little bit limited on range in that. So it's not my favorite, but I've had to use it over the years. And that. So we're gonna, not use that in this build. All right. Another thing I like is the spammable. You're gonna be doing the spammable a lot. All right. That's the big thing. So you're spammable. You're basically what a spammable is. It's the thing that you hit all the time. All right. And this one, I'm loving the graphic lately. It goes a little bit more than 180 degrees. It's the scythe. I love that you have a scythe coming out here. All right. Oh, I just dig that animation. Maybe it's also because we're coming out of the Halloween holidays and stuff, and me, I love my orange and my purples and stuff, and my blues and stuff. I just really like it. It's been a lot of fun to have that animation going on in there. So that's the thing I'm seeing over and over again. As opposed to, and I'm just going to anger all of my Templar friends, and as opposed to like the Templar that has the jabs, the dun 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 dun. Dun, 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 in a fourth. I hate that animation. I don't know what it is about it, but I do not like it at all. All right? It's just, I don't like it. And it's repetitive and just, no. So yeah. So if I have to do that, as a thing, it's just like, no, I don't feel like playing it. So, I'm also a big fan of the Blast Bones in here. I call him Bob. All right, so that's my 3 key. And it's where you take a skeleton, you put him up there, he finds a target, jumps to him. I just love the animation that he just like jump. Because sometimes I'll be attacking. Like here, let's see if I can do it. I put it like this. He's going, I'm attacking, just doing myself, and all of a sudden, boom! Out of nowhere. You know? And it's always fun when I kill an enemy before Bob gets there, because then we go to another enemy and it's like he's enthusiastic. He's going after him, first before I even get there. So a lot of fun. So again, you hear what I'm talking about. I'm talking about animations. I'm talking about things that I enjoy in there. Let's see. Another skill, I like the little ghost that comes out. I picked that for one of my skills that heals you up. Got to make sure I don't do it in towns because that's a no-no. It's a criminal act. The guards get mad at you. But I love the little ghosties. I love that little animations, So that, and then I've gotten into my scribing skills, with some of the new updates and stuff. And I love this one. It's called Healing Burst. I did use it on my a frost version of it on my Frostagon in there, because it kind of arches back and boom, and all this power kind of comes out. And when it's the frost one, it's really kind of neat in there. But this one, I wanted the healing with it, and so the healing animation's really good. It's very powerful, and I really enjoy it. So that's how we begin. That's how we begin. I'm thinking about the skills that I like using over and over and over again. Am I going to get tired of them with that? Now, you might be thinking, hey, how do I test all this stuff? What do I do? Well, you do a little bit of research. You can watch some videos of people that have put up all the different animations of all the different, character classes. Or, this game is a very alt-friendly game. And you can, just start a character and get some of the lower level skills and test them out and see, hey, is this something that I would like? Is this something that, I could see myself playing and give it a shot? Leveling this in this game is not a chore by any means in there. So you can get yourself up to like level 16, level 20 fairly quickly, especially if there's an XP event going on, and be able to, check out what skills that you like and enjoy playing. Just from an animation side of it. I know. Oh my gosh, that blows the mind. Enjoying what you're doing. All right. So, we've got that. Okay. And then, of course, picking the race that you want in there. I prefer Khajiit. I just do stuff. I like the eyes with this one. There's always like little cosmetic things that you can do. It looks very necromancer. So, all right. So, there's the first thing. The next thing you want to do is that here's a little bit more kind of specifics of stuff. You're going to kind of choose, when you make a build, whether you're going to use magicka abilities or stamina abilities. And this can change depending upon, the skills that you pick. Because the skills that you pick, are either going to be using a lot of magicka or a lot of stamina, or maybe a combination, or maybe a little bit of health. It matters. So you always have to read the tooltip. The tooltip is when you hover over, that, and it tells you about it. Like my healing burst, it costs magicka. Spirit Guardian costs magicka. The Blight Bow actually does a little bit of stamina, but I don't use it, as quickly as my other stuff. So it's okay, but that's a mix for me. And magicka. So you can kind of check it out, see which one it is. So you're going to kind of, pick that in there. So, then, after you kind of pick your attributes on which side that you're on, you're going to want to get some gear that's complementary to that. All right? So when we're looking at gear, let's start with this. With gear, you want to have levels of gear. What I kind of mean by that is that you do not have to get the best of the best, even ever, in there. You want to be able to find some gear that you can acquire fairly easily. All right? You can use other things while you lead up to it. Some basic either crafted gear or gear that you just pick up along the way. Because gear really doesn't matter too much until you hit, the level 50 and then the 160 CP, championship point. Because then you can have a set that you keep and you just use that set if you want to. All right. But a lot of people think, oh, I've got to get the highest, the tier out of that trial, that everybody, and I got to get the perfected because that's the best. It's like, no, you don't. No, you don't. Perfected gear is to be able to do the 1% of content. If you're not going to do that content, all right, then you don't have to worry about it. People say, well, I eventually want to get there. Well, eventually, take yourself on the journey. Take yourself on that path as you go along. You want it to for most of the content that you're going to be doing, all right? Because you're going to be playing this game a lot. You're going to be going through. You're going to be getting sky shards. You're going to be doing story. You're going to be doing arenas. You're going to be doing all this variety in the game. And you want something that is kind of an all-in-one, something that's going to carry you along the way, all right? So, for example, let me give you some examples, all right? One of the things that I'm running, it's called a 1-bar build, because you can have 2 bars back and forth. But for accessibility and more relaxation, more casual in there, I use a I should say casual because I do high-end solo stuff with this build. So I use 1-bar builds, and one of the great things that came out last year, a little while ago or something, like gosh, I don't know if it's 1 or 2 years now, is this little thing right here. It's called the Oaken Soul Ring. All right, and it's a mythic, and what it is that you have to do a little bit of research into antiquities and some other things. You can look up videos of how to acquire it. Of this ring that you've got to put together, and once you've got one, you're able to recreate it, which is great. The main factor about the Oaken Soul Ring is that it gives you a ton of buffs. All right, if you kind of read down there, all the different buffs that it gives you. But the thing is that you can only use 1 bar. You can't swap bars. And so that gives us, it's kind of changed the game for us as far as being able to go out and do content on a 1-bar build. So we don't have to worry about all those skills. We can just do it 1 set, that 1 bar. All right. So the Oaken Soul Ring. Okay, so you're going to pair that ring, all right, with a helm. Any helm you want. It really doesn't matter. And if you're like, well, where do I get these helms and stuff like that? You can go in and do normal dungeons. Yeah, you don't have to do... actually, for these, wait, hold on. For these, you got to do veteran. I forgot. I was thinking with the other armor stuff like that. You do veteran dungeons, but you don't have to do very hard ones. You can do a lot of the base game ones. All right? This one comes out of the Wayrest sewers. And there's a guy down there called Slimecraw. All right? And at the end, you get a helm. And you can go through there with a group or even a pickup group to be able to do it. And you can get your helms with this. Now, why people like this one particularly is that if you look in the one item, all right, bar, it says add 771 crit chance. Most of the other ones, I think, do 687 is like the number if it's got a crit, thing on it. And I don't know why they just chose for this one to go a little bit more. So people get that one, but you can use anything, if you know about, different things of like, penetrations and recovery, helms and stuff like that. You can use anything you want in there. All right. It just gives you a little addition, in that because we're breaking up the set. When you get a helm, you usually have a helm and shoulder combo. And so you're breaking up that set. So for us to make this build, that's where we begin. We're getting an easy to acquire helm, and we're getting it takes a little bit of work, but once you get it, it's like, doing unlocking lockboxes and some RNG and some, antiquity stuff, everything. So that takes a little bit. But once you've got that, you've got it. So there's the start of your build. All right, that's why you're going after. Now you just got to come up with 2 sets. Any 2 sets will do. As you're going along, you can even get a friend to craft you stuff. You might have heard of the all-powerful, Julianus. Julianus, oh gosh, that used to be the meta back in the day, and stuff. Lots of different, different gear that you can use as you're going along. Some different sets, and basically you're looking for sets that might complement what you're doing. All right, so and maybe give you bonuses to some stamina stuff. Give you some bonuses to health, giving you all that stuff. So the ones that Duma has in his build that I really like, and I actually, on my EU, I changed it up a little bit, but for my NA character, it's two basic ones. It is the Pillar of Nirn that comes out of Falkreath. This you can go and do a dungeon on normal. All right, go on through there, just some friends, and you collect, different gear as you go along in something called a sticker book. All right, we affectionately call it the sticker book. If you don't know about this, if you go over in collections and you go over to your set items, every time that you do some content, especially dungeons, in here, it's going to drop gear. All right, and it's one of those things that as you go along, you start filling it up more and more, and the game is intelligent enough that it always gives you something that you don't have. So, like if I've got let's say like over here a bunch of this stuff, but I haven't collected this stuff yet, the game will give you just that gear until it's filled up. Yeah, and from that you're able to recreate that gear with transmute crystals that you get through different ways in the game, and be able to put that together. Yeah. So for me, Pillar of Nirn. Now, why did we pick Pillar of Nirn here? Because Duma's pretty smart in there. Crit chance, the chance to crit and do more damage is really popular. I have this Pillar of Nirn on a bunch of my builds in here because it also does something cool that we don't even have to worry about doing. If you look at that 5 items, that when you deal damage, you create a fissure underneath the enemy for 1 second, dealing bleed damage. Oh my gosh, isn't that amazing? And then does some stuff to other enemies within a few meters of that. So when you're getting different gear, you're just like, why is one gear better than another? Well, sometimes it's just ease of use. I mean, using this one, pretty easy to acquire, and it does something. It does damage, extra damage on that I don't have to worry about. So that makes things a lot easier in there. So the Pillar of Nirn is a really good set to get. So if you're looking for that, like I said, I use Pillar of Nirn on my Arcanist, I've used it on my DK, I've used it on a lot of different builds and stuff, and it's a great, great choice within that. So it helps our crit chance, all right, gives us a little spell damage, and then does an extra thing. And it has like this little rock, so like a little volcano coming out. It was kind of cool. So, all right, another one for my other set in here is the Overwhelming set. Now, this was an interesting choice, I thought, by Duma in there, because I've used other things with this, even some later Endgame, kind of stuff, because, I used to do a lot of that stuff back in the day. Well, I still do it every once in a while. But anyway, this one comes out of, let's see, the Pillar of Nirn was a Falkreath, I said, and this one comes out of Tempest Isle. Again, you can do it all on normal. All right, let me show the Tempest Isle one. So yeah, I can put in here and I can go Tempest. Oops. Wait, what am I not thinking with this one? Is it not Tempest Isle? What am I thinking? Elders, everything. Here, I'll look it up a different way. Just kind of show you how to do it. So I can also look up for overwhelming dungeons. Oh! I don't know why it didn't come up in the search that way. Anyway, then you put it in that way. So overwhelming surge, all right, is in here. So it's really cool. So it's another one you go through on normal. Go through some friends, do some pugs. And you can get this one as well. And this one gives us some magicka. Look at that. We needed some magicka. This one gives us some spell damage. Good balance, because the other set gave us some crit, and this was going to give us more of the spell damage. But then it says, when you damage with a class ability, you surround yourself with a torrent that deals 887 shock damage. That number can change. To enemies within 8 meters of you every 1 second. 15% of that damage you deal this way is restored to you as magicka. This effect can occur every 7 seconds and scale off of the higher that. So we get some resources back. That's always good in there. You know, our recovery for our resources is always good with that. And it has kind of a cool animation. So it said any class skill, right? Well, I've got this class skill that I use a lot. So this is going to go off all the time. So let's do this. Let's fire that off and let's see what I get. Ooh, look at that right away. Look at that electricity. Look at that electricity coming out of there. I'm electric. Dun, 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 dun. Wait, no, let's do the hustle. Dun, 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 dun. I love it. There we go. Yeah. So, again, a great, fun animation. I don't have to do anything extra. And I get that wonderful effect, and it does some extra damage to give me some resource back. All right, so a little bit of that. So like I said, when you're making a build, you're looking for something that's easy to acquire, all right, and something to put together in here and have a little bit extra oomph. You know, give you some either resources or give you some spell crit or something like that, or have a nice balance of that between the two sets, and then give you that kind of passive damage because you don't have to do anything for it. So that's the way to do it. Now, you might be saying, well, it doesn't have a lot of features that I see off of like a bigger set like an Endgame set. Well, like probably the biggest Endgame set that I have that I use a lot is Whirl of the Depths. All right, it comes from one of the hardest trials out there called Dreadsail Reef. And there is a perfected version, so very hard to get a group together. You can see on normal, I've got everything. On vet, I do not have everything, and I've gone to that place a lot because it's very hard to acquire. So, and it has all these extra things on it. You know, it's got like, gain minor slayer at all time, increasing all your damage and stuff like that to monsters and everything like that. You know, weapon damage, all this extra thing. Well, here's the great thing about running a 1-bar build. We get a lot of those things, all right in all of our stuff. All right, we get the berserks, we get the sorcery and the savagery and everything. We get a lot of things that we don't have to worry about. We might not get everything, all right, because they got to entice us somehow with having, with Endgame, gear and that. But I'm not saying at all that needs to be the goal. It doesn't. Me running Pillar of Nirn instead of running Whirl of the Depths, all right, doesn't mean a hill of beans. It's exactly the same. Yeah, it doesn't matter at all. That little bit of it doing more damage to someone who's just doing things, and not, like I said, I talked about it before, and not, having that job and all the different things that comes with like really pushing for, end-game content and stuff. For most of us, in there, for the 99% of all this stuff like that, you will not need that. You could get a better light attack in, or you could get a better skill rotation, or just like that, and make up for any of that damage that you might be thinking that you're losing because of the gear. So don't let the gear be the guiding force when you're making a build. All right? That's kind of the biggest thing that I can impart to people in that. Because we have a very active combat. And I have friends of mine, I always think of my friend Zuna, that can wear exactly the same gear that I have and can just, do double the amount of damage I can do. They're just savants in the game. They just know how to, to be able to pump out that damage bigger. I don't understand it. And stuff. And so it's a lot of it is on you and what you like to do and how you do things and stuff. So when you make a build, don't look at the end game stuff and work backwards of what you need to go and do and get, especially if you're just beginning. All right. If you are a seasoned pro and you do a lot of end gaming, you do a lot of stuff, and you know those different roles that you're going to be, doing in that group and all the different bosses and stuff like that, well then this video is not for you because you know all that stuff already. And that when they make a new character or something, they're looking at, what they're building towards with that. But all of this stuff, building of having 2 complementary sets that are easy to get through, give you a little bit of extra damage, give you a little bit of extra of resources and crit and stuff. That's what you want to build towards. And having that combination of the helm and Oaken Solar is going to be absolutely fantastic. And you might be wondering, what are the stats and all my stuff and everything like that. I'm kind of going over them, kind of quickly and with that, because if you really want to check it out, you can check out, Duma over at the gameroom.tv, where this build is called the 3-button, Necromancer. So you can check that out. Because I don't want to get you, deal with a specific build, because you could do a lot of different things. I could have a lot of different setups for this and do well as well. So, but we want to get to how do I kind of think of builds? How do I want to approach builds? And that's kind of what we're doing. So yeah, so we talked about the animation that you want. We then wanted to, have gear that's kind of complementary and easy to acquire. You don't have to do, especially, you don't have to do all that Endgame to get all the stuff. To be able to, we want stuff that's easy to do so we can use it as quickly as possible and get into all that stuff when we're making a build. The other thing that you're thinking about when you're thinking about build, of course, is your skills. Okay, what skills am I going to be using? All right, and I showed you, some of the stuff that I like using just for the aesthetics, but I also pick ones that do some, are the damaging ones. So in every class, you have the damaging sets, you have the tanking sets, and you also have the. Does My Living Death have a color choice? What's this one? Ooh, in red. Oh, I didn't know I could actually change to red. Look at that. See, it's all about the fashion. I'm just like, ooh, we can have a red one? I might have to go through and get that. What do I have to do? Oh. Hungry Siphon, the skills menu. Okay, we're going to have to go and check that out. So, but I was talking about, taking sets like that. And then a healing side. Each class has that. So you usually want a balance of everything. All right, talking about, how if you're looking at Endgame people are going to look at, especially if you're a DPS, are looking about all damage skills. Say, what does the most damage? What does the most damage in rotation? Looking at cooldowns, looking at stuff like that. For us, when we do stuff, we want a good balance. We want to be able to have things that do damage in AoEs. We want to have some damage that does some single target. In there, you want to have stuff that heals you, maybe puts a shield on you. All right, so these are the kind of things that you kind of want to research and see what kind of balance goes. Like, for instance, one of the things that I changed in here from Duma's build was actually this last skill over here, the Healing Burst, that I like so much. I need an on-button heal when I get into trouble. I always have. In everything that I've done, I've got to make, I've got to have something that I can just, it's my old poop button, to have that. And we do have a heal on here with the Spirit Guardian. All right. The Spirit Guardian, what it does is this morph of it is that you it absorbs 10% of the damage that you would have taken in there, and then does a heal over time, which is wonderful. All right. But sometimes I'm just like, I'm at my 1% and boom, I need to hit something to get myself all the way back up, within that. So through scribing, I found the Healing Burst where I can do a big burst of heal. Then it also does a heal over time and then gives me a little bit of minor resolve that increases my physical and spell resistances to that. So I have that in there. So basically, like, with Doom is supposed to 3 buttons, these 3, which are the damaging ones. And then I have over here ones for me where I'm just like, okay, put this on, take the less damage, all right, get the little bit of heal. And I'm like, oh my gosh, boom, I need a big heal. Look at that, 18,000 when that crits. Look at that, 18,000 when it crits. That's amazing. Boom. Love it. All right, so I need that big one. I can cast it over and over if I don't, if I'm really, really hurting. And you can see it's doing some residual, heals over time afterwards. So I need that. In the original build, of Duma. He actually makes it even easier for people who has like a passive, not that one. He's got a passive one, which is the revealing flare. That's a great skill because if you see, he says while slotted gives major protection, reducing your damage taken by 10%, which is what we get through this guy in there. So he had it put onto here instead of a dedicated heal. Two things for me that I adjusted with that, and I'm not bashing the build at all. I love this build. All right, I'm glad that I could bring my own kind of flair to how I use stuff. Is that gives you the extra protection, but for people that don't do PvP, that's actually a fairly good bit of PvP that you've got to do to be able to get that skill. And I've had that in other builds, and I've said that along that too. That it's you got to do a fair amount of PvP to do it. And if you don't do any of it and you don't like to do that, you're like, okay, what can I use? In that. So the combination of the Spirit Guardian to get that 10% on call, so this is on all the time, but this is on call, and having that healing burst, so you have that big heal. So it did two things for me and stuff. It made it so I didn't really need to level this up. And then I've got, this that gives me that good heal. So if you're thinking, oh gosh, thank you, I don't have to worry about that. So that's one of my changes because I know, that's the way I play within that. So there we go. So I think I showed off all the skills. So Unknowing Boneyard, Hungry Scythe, Blast Bones, the Guardian, the Healing Burst, and then the Ravenous Goliath. Kind of a big, another old poop kind of button that you can, turn into that if you need to. And that you can research about that on Dumas and stuff. So great choices. Listen, I don't say this lightly about stuff, but where I am right now and how I like looking at stuff and how I, want to build for stuff for my own things and stuff, Duma really nailed it with this build for me. And I've been complimenting about it, him about it, telling a lot of people about it because I think it's great. So yeah, definitely go check it out. Okay. So we found the skills. Now here's the other thing when making a build and people forget about is that you got to include passives. People will pick the skills and then they forget about the passives down below. Make sure you scroll, the little scroll thing, dun, 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 in there. Make sure that you do all of the passives because they give you so many good bonuses, especially in the weapons stuff. All right, when you're doing like a destruction staff in here, there are features depending on upon what kind of staff that you're using. That's it for a lot of the weapons, but like because I know this is the best and stuff. Depending on which one, like Ancient Knowledge. If I'm using an Inferno staff, I'm going to be increasing my damage over time by 12%. That's a lot, people. That's a lot of stuff. All right. That's still good tea. If I'm using a lightning staff like I am, increases your damage done with direct damage and channeled, effects in here. Equipping an ice staff reduces the cost of blocking, if you want a little bit more tankier. I was doing that with my Frostagon build so that I could block more with it, especially when I was going into an Infinite Archive. So make sure that you take the passives, within here. So through that, and with all your different armor types, make sure that you've got the points that you need to into the different armors. All right, I have one of each type of armor on this build on here, so I get a little bit to everything. So make sure you do that. Go through all of your all your different ones. Make sure that you do fill in your racial ones. A lot of people don't even know that that's there. They just think that they never open it up. They're just like, oh yeah, it's my race is Khajiit, or High Elf, and they don't never click on it and go, oh, I've got to put those bonuses in. So those bonuses very important when you're making your build. All right, so we talked about animation. We talked about enjoying what you're doing. We're talking about don't think about endgame, think about building gear as you go and finding gear that complements each other with that. We talked about building for a 1-bar build, relaxing with that, including that Oakensoul ring that does so much for us. We talked about that. Oh, let's talk about, we talked about skills. Let's talk about food. A lot of people forget that you got to have food in this game. I mean, you don't have to, but you lose out on a ton of stuff. And there's so much different food in the game, and you'll see things, like the high end for like clockwork, such as filet, which takes some high level mats. You can go to some cheaper ones as well, like Witch Mother's Potent Brew, which I think we got out of this last event in there, but a lot of people have it, and the recipes are on traders and stuff, or in your guild if you're in a guild, within that. And so make sure that you're having your food in there. It really makes up a lot. Adding, increasing, like with Witch Mother's Brew, adding to my magicka, my health, and my my recovery, really, really big. That's a really big thing that you are losing out on if you don't do any of that in there. Having a potion ready to go to help you out. Because we talk about our own healing and stuff like that. But if we're out of resources or we need a big heal, make sure to do that. One of the easiest ones and universally renowned by everybody in the game is the Crown Try Restoration Potion. Tons of health back, resources, over time recovery, all that stuff. You're like, oh my gosh, is that high level mats? Is that something that you you have to, you gotta, you do like an endgame dungeon to get, no. They show up all the time in the daily rewards. Did we get one for this month? We've got different stuff going on, but almost every month they're in here. They're in here so much during the daily rewards that you can collect. Let me see. Let me look at my inventory inside. Try rest. Look at this. Look at this. 6,000. I never throw them out, and I put them in my bank, and I throw them in on different characters and stuff like that. Over 6,000 try restoration. You're gonna get them. You're gonna get them all over the place. If you don't have any, have a friend. Give you a few to get you going while you start to make your collection and stuff. And everything. They're always. See, I can't see now that they're always in there because there's none in this month. Am I? Did I miss out something? They're usually like all in this month. That's not. That's a different thing and stuff. But you usually always get them. Usually a few times throughout the month. But they got some different stuff this month. So, but yeah, you just get them all the time. So you don't have to worry about it. So you get this very, very high level, potion to help you out, and you put it right there on your wheel. Oh, if people don't know about that, if you go over here into your items and go into the quick slots, boom, you can grab anything and put it on your little hotbar wheel for all of your stuff. So if I want to switch it up, anything that's over there, you can see how it changed. It's my Q button. But if I need some food, boom, I've got it, and then I keep my pot on there all the time when I'm doing stuff. So yeah, look at that. Yeah, what a great thing to have. So a lot of people forget about that, and it's as important to figure that out for a build as anything else. All right. So food. We've got that. We got something like that. Okay, last thing, CP. Champion points. All right. Your green tree gives you a lot of things that are just kind of out in the world when you're not really doing, too much stuff, when you're like harvesting resources and everything like that. So we usually skip that. And we go to what's up here in the CP. When you're making a build, you want to see what are you using. What are you using? What complements? And you can, research. There's other videos and stuff that you can see, talk about all the different ones that are in the tree. But they're made up of two main parts. They're made up of these little orbs that you socket in. All right. And those, you have ones that you socket in for them to take effect. And then you have passives. You've got background ones, like this one over here just adds to my magicka. We've got another one over here that just adds to my stamina. So a lot of people don't know that there's passives in there. So make sure that you check those out. There's even passives within, when you go into a deeper level here. Like this one does more offensive penetration with that. These over here increase my magical status effect chance and stuff. Give me some spell damage to magical attacks. So a lot of good things in your CP. So CP is really important as you're going along. And a lot of people don't know too that that end number of 3,600, nobody gets there unless you're like Jimmy JJ Shabadoo or other people there that go crazy with that. I should say that I'm getting pretty high in the number too. What's my? I'm at 2580. I'm pretty up there. But pretty much I had everything that I needed at 1200. So, it's all about, you're progressing to just make it so that I don't have to, move my points around, very much. Anyway, so you want to find things that are complementary. All right. I have, in this build, all right, Wrathful Strikes, because it gives you a little bit more spell damage. That's always a nice one. Focus Mending, give you a little bit of healing one. That's one in Duma's one that I never thought about putting that on there to help out my healing. One of the great things about that Scythe skill is that when you swipe it, you also get some healing back. So this is actually going to make it so I get a little bit more healing. And I'm like, really? I said, oh, I like that. Usually my go-to is Fighting Finesse. Usually I have that on there to help the critical damage and critical healing on there, which I could still use. It's still a very good one as well if I wanted to go that crit route in there. But one of the great things about being a Khajiit, we got extra bonuses to crit damage. So I don't have to worry about it like some other races on there. So I'm like, you know what? Since I'm going with a Khajiit, let's do that. Let's focus on that healing like Duma suggested. So I like it. All right. Then I've got Biting Aura. I like this one because I'm going with area effects. All the damage stuff is kind of over here, where like you can, if you want area of effect damage, if you're going after single target damage, if you're doing direct damage, if you're doing overtime, if you're doing damage overtime damage. So you pick these that are going to be complementary to what you're doing. So I pick, since I do a bunch of AOE stuff, I'm using that. And then a lot of my stuff is direct damage as well. I've got some damage over time stuff, in like with the Boneyard and stuff. A lot of my stuff is direct damage, so I don't need it. So if you ever change it, or if you've got a build, that does more focus on dots, or is more single target oriented and stuff, you would swap those in and put those, socket those in. So there you go. And then the red tree is think of it. I almost kind of think of it as the tanking and resource kind of side of things and stuff. It makes you a little bit stronger, and gives you. I picked the ones that go with health. Duma suggested these, but these are the ones I would have picked as well. Bonuses to health, bonuses to my armor, bonuses to my resource. Getting resources back, and then kind of a fun one for this build. In here that I didn't start. I can't say that. I started using this with my bear when I was doing Frostagon, because the bear I never used the ultimate. Strategic Reserve is one of these ones where if you've got a lot of ultimate, you got a lot of health recovery. If you use it, you lose it. So we don't use it too often in here. So where normally I wouldn't have as much. Recovery in here. Oops. Yeah. That's what, if you see, because of that passive, my recovery from my health is at 23, is that 67? Yeah. Yeah. Huge amount of recovery with that. More than my, even my Magicka. Even though my Magicka is really high too. So that's kind of the essence of this build too, is like having a lot of health recovery and resource recovery. So you don't have to worry about doing any kind of, heavy attacks to be able to get resources back. So that's an aspect of the build. So there you go. So that covers the CP part of it within there. So yeah. So I think that's it. So we've talked about how do you think of a build? How do you think of what are the things that you've got to be thinking about? So we're thinking about just finding a fun animation, to be able to hit things with. All right. Start with that because you're going to be doing it for a whole lot. All right. Boom. Then start thinking about, your magic side or stamina side, which is going to be determined by your skills. So you check out your skills. What skills look like a lot of fun to be able to use, with those animations and stuff. All right. Then you're going to look at gear that's going to complement what you're going to do. And if you're going with, more of the casual, the one bar build, so you don't have to worry about as much stuff in there, you can break up your helm. You can then, pair that with the Oaken Soul ring. And then all you have to do is find 2 sets. And you can have those sets progress as you go along. You can have some crafted sets to begin with. You can then upgrade to have some sets that do a little bit of extra, some passive damage, so you don't have to worry about it. All right, and that's as far as you need to go in there, because if you're going after, because all this stuff, even nowadays with like some of the meta stuff, they'll use Pillar of Nirn, a lot of good stuff for arcs and stuff in there, with that. So you don't have to, do the end game, vet hard mode, whatever, stuff like that to acquire the gear that you need. There's plenty of gear out there that'll get the job done. So yeah, it also depends, like we said, upon the content that you're doing. Are you doing more soloing stuff? That's going to determine what kind of skills you're going to put on your bar. With that, if you're doing soloing stuff, you want to do a little damage, a little bit of healing, be stout a little bit, have some good recovery. If you're doing, more, dungeon stuff where you're going to have a lot of people, going around, or trial stuff, you can build a little bit more glass cannon because you're going to have a healer there. You're going to have someone that's going to be tanking, so you're not absorbing any damage. Also, it really depends on what you're going to do. All right, and then you want to complement, excuse me, all of that stuff by your food, and your food that gives you either magicka or stamina bonuses or the health or whatever, and with potions. And then finally, you're going to be thinking about, what is going on with my CP. So that's why you want to kind of, keep progressing as you're going along. And you don't have to worry about, having, 3,600, having the highest kind of stuff. As you go, you'll put more points, and then you'll put points into the passive abilities as you go along, and you'll progress more and more. Get stronger and stronger. Yeah. So there you go. So I hope this kind of, I know it's a little bit kind of a longer video and kind of a conversation video, but this is the conversation I wish I could have, anytime that someone comes in and asks, what's the best this? What's the best gear? What's the best class? What's the best, that? And I don't really have the answer that I think they're looking for, and I even see this in other streamers and stuff like that, so nobody really does, because it changes, even if you found the meta for, what is now, by the time you build it, if you're starting from scratch and get up to the thing that you think you might want, it might change, So you want to think, in, at least for me, for 99% of the game, is to have that well-roundedness, have a little bit of everything, enjoy what you're going to be doing, and then you can tweak and move some stuff around. And a great way to start, like it showed here, is something like that. Find yourself a build. Check out some of these wonderful people that make different builds. From humbly myself, from Duma, Hack the Minotaur, Zynote, Skinny Cheeks. If it's so many people. To mention in that, and find something that you might like with that class in that with the skills and stuff that you might like, and start there as your beginning, and they'll say that as much as anything, use that as a template for what you are, what you want to build and what you want to do. And you do this, and get a build going, you're going to start to see how this whole process works. And then you get a little bit more comfortable making your own builds and having a lot of fun with it. Don't let that the only way to make a build is building something for the end game content, because like I put the end game in quotes, because that's not, that's not how it's done anymore. So if it was ever even done, that way. For people, you want to find something that's fun, that keeps you engaged in the game, that can allow you to do multiple different things of content, and then be able to tweak it if you need to have something specific. Within that, if you're going to approach that 1% of the game for a lot of that end game stuff. So, and we don't say this, and I don't say this as something that, just like, oh, you don't need it, stuff like this. Well, no, it is really just for the 1%. I can take this guy anywhere. I can take it into, to vet dungeons, do all the stuff, everything. But if I were from there go into the hard modes and go to try to do trifectas, I got to be part of a team. I got to be part of a team, and I've got to do my job. When I got my Godslayer, dropping the mic, just humbly saying Godslayer. When I did that, I had to learn a whole new class. they're like, okay, but we need what they call a Zen Alkosh. Basically, it's the two types of armor that I wear on the DK. It's like, would you like to do that job? I'm like, yeah, I don't really have one up. It says, well, you got a little time when we're putting the group together. So man, I took a Dragon Knight, and because that was the best with it at the time, and use those sets, learned about those sets, and did a specific thing to be able to get that job, to be part of that group, to get that end game, to get that trifecta, and to do that. Was it fun? Yeah. Would I do it again? No. Actually, I did do it a couple of times. I got a couple other achievements on some other ones too later on. It's like that. But for me, it's a lot to do, and it's not most of what I like to play in the game. So, but I love showing off that Godslayer, because like a lot of people now know that I'm pretty casual about what I do. Well, I say casual, but like I said, I should say I do more solo stuff, so I do the solo arenas and can do all the stuff, in there. But as far as the quote end game of trifectas for dungeons and trials, I don't do those much anymore and stuff. But I always like, flashing up that Godslayer, because it's kind of like a calling card of like, yeah, I used to do the things. And I think that gives me a real insight into what I'm talking about here about making your builds. Because I've been there. I've been there where I've had to build something absolutely specific to do that. And a lot of people think that, okay, that's the build that I need to build if I'm going to enjoy the game and if I'm going to do all the other content in the game. Nope. That's not how it works. It's a specific thing to go with that. If you're going out in the world, you're going to be doing things, you're going to be solo content, you want to do that build, that Zen Alkosh build gets wrecked on certain world bosses. Like, not even close. Not even close do I surviving, that, because I need a healer, I need a tank to be able to do the stuff that I do. And it's a very, a Zen Alkosh job is to give buffs to other players so that they can do monstrous damage in there, as well as you doing, some good damage yourself. So it's a whole different thing. Yeah, if I took that even against some of the, the one I like to check out for stuff is the Guar on the eastern side of Deshaun. So that because he does a whole lot of interrupts and he moves around. He's got a lot of healers and stuff like that. That DK dies to that Guar. This little guy that just has non-perfected gear and all the stuff and a little bit of heals and just those 3 buttons, just wrecks that Guar. Guar has no chance against this guy whatsoever. So that kind of gives you, the insight into that. It's a whole different thing building for specific, end game hard mode trifecta. Excuse me, losing my voice. Give me my tea back. There you go, a good lemon tea. And building for something for that, then doing, all around builds, which are going to, get you through your content, do stuff, because it's most of the stuff that a lot of us do, unless you are only into the end game stuff and have a group that just runs that. So yeah. So anyway, now I'm kind of, jabbering on, but I hope I, made a point. I hope I gave you something to think about within this. And if down below, if you want to, any other, comments about, what, things that you've experienced. Oops. too long on that. Things that you've experienced in game that would be helpful to anyone that's doing some builds and ways to think about. I'd love to hear about it. So thank you, everybody. You're wonderful. Thank you for all the support here on YouTube, and make sure to go check me out on Twitch. Stream on there 5 days a week. So, and you can always free to ask stuff, there as well. And what I might do is actually make this a command in there, so that if people do have questions about how to make a build and how to think about stuff, they've got a resource to do it. So, all right, everybody, take care, be safe. Talk to you soon.